Assalamualaikum. I am Ajiba Sarwang and I am going to discuss about the three managerial topics. Consumer linguistics have three managerial topics. These are the brand equity, brand identity, and customer interaction. Brand equity and consumer linguistics. Brand equity in marketing is the worth of the brand in and of itself. The purpose of brand equity metrics is to measure the value of a brand. A brand encompasses the name, logo, image, and perceptions that identify a product, service, or provider in the minds of the customers. It takes shape in advertising, packaging, and other marketing communications, and becomes a focus of the relationships with consumers. In time, a brand comes to embody a promise about the goods it identifies. For example, this well-known brand from food industry, an instant noodles named Maggi. Though there was a long ban over the flagship noodle product of Maggi in India, the product had huge demand even after its relaunching in the market. Maggi is the best positive example to represent how strong brand equity can help an organization cope with different market situations. Brand equity includes these three research areas. First is the brand awareness, second is the brand association, and the third one is the brand attitude. Brand awareness. Brand awareness is related to the functions of brand identities in consumers' memory and can be measured by how well the consumers can identify the brand under various conditions. Brand awareness plays an important role in the consumer's forecasting decision-making process. Brand awareness is reinforced by its brand-related associations, such as the consumer's evaluation of the brand and their perceived quality of the brand. For examples, example number one, when someone said, I want to buy McFloat, you will recognize that the product McFloat is a product of McDonald's. Example number two, when you saw a product with this logo, you will recognize that it is an Apple product. Example number three, when you heard sneakers, you will recall brands that are distributors of this type of shoes. Considering our exposure to the brands and the products, note that example 1 and 2 are examples of brand recognition, and example 3 is a brand recall. Brand associations. Brand association is anything which is deep-seated in customers' mind about the brand. Brand associations are the attributes of brand which come into the consumer's mind when the brand is talked about. It is related with the implicit and explicit meanings which a consumer relates or associates with the specific brand name. For example, when it comes to Nike, customers usually associate it with sports, sneakers, just do it, check, and etc. Consumer research has examined the issue of brand associations to different languages. There are the more straightforward effects of language as a proxy for a country of origin. Brand names themselves, if they sound like they belong to the specific language, could benefit from this association. Pontoni and Van Osseler find that texts such as advertising slogans in a person's native language are always perceived as more emotional than text in a second language. For example, from fast food restaurant Jollibee, where their slogan says, sa Jollibee, bida ang saya. Brand attitude. A customer's brand attitude is made up of two components. First is the strength of positive or negative association that a customer experiences with regard to a particular brand. Second is the conviction that the positive or negative association is accurate. In other words, how much does the customer like or dislike a brand, and how convinced is the customer that this perception about the brand is correct? People have different experiences in a certain product, where it affects their perception about it. For example, Coca-Cola, where others said it is refreshing and satisfying, while others said it's tasteless or unhealthy. In a consumer behavior context, the construct of interest in studies of persuasion is generally brand attitudes. Perhaps one of the most researched topics in persuasion literature relevant to language is that of which language is most effective to influence the attitudes of a particular target market, particularly if it is a bilingual market. Noriega and Blair 2008 showed that the language chosen in advertising messages generated different types of thoughts among bilingual individuals. Specifically, native language advertising has been found to more likely elicit thoughts about family, friends, and home, which can then have an influence on attitude toward the ad and behavioral intention. For example, in the Philippines, an ads from Jollibee, Parangal for Mother's Day Special, First Love for Father's Day Special, and Biyahe for Grandparents' Day Special. Brand identity is how a brand portrays itself to the customers. It is the set of all the branding activities a company indulges in order to be perceived in a particular way to the target audience. For example, McDonald's is the world's largest fast food restaurant in different countries. Yet, the company has a really consistent brand identity, where it associates the color red and yellow to it, the tagline and jingle of "I'm loving it," and the mascot Ronald McDonald. There are three research areas involved in brand identity. The first one is the brand personality, second is brand symbolism, and the third one is the organizational association. Brand personality. Brand personality is the way a brand speaks and behaves. It means assigning human personality, traits, or characteristics to a brand so as to achieve differentiation. These characteristics signify brand behavior through both individuals representing the brand, including its employees, as well as through advertising, packaging, etc. When brand image or brand identity is expressed in terms of human traits, it is called brand personality. Brand personality is an important issue from a consumer linguistics perspective because the personality of the brand will dictate the kind of language, including the tone of voice, that should be used in all its communication. If a brand is positioned as solid, established, trustworthy, it should certainly use different language than a brand that is positioned as creative, irreverent, and trendy. Differences will include length of sentences and type of vocabulary, use of contractions, a formal versus informal tone, type of punctuation, and use and non-use of literary devices such as alliteration, among others. Similarly, if the brand were to be positioned as a global powerhouse, it would likely use some English in its communication. For example, in its tagline, like "Life is good" or "Connecting people." Brand symbolism. This area of brand identity can best be studied through semiotic inquiry. A brand can be conceptualized as a system of signs and symbols that engage consumers in imaginary or symbolic process. Symbolic communication is relevant for advertising, digital and social media, packaging, and logos. For instance, McDonald's golden arcs signifying the M in the brand name McDonald's are a complex matrix of signifying and signified elements. When consumers see the logo, it consistently signifies the company and brand offerings burger and fries and serves as a reminder of the product itself. For example, the color of French fries. Organizational associations. One important element of brand identity relates to how consumers perceive the organization behind the brand. Two main managerial activities that influence those associations are the organization's corporate social responsibility or the CSR strategy and their public relations strategy. Corporate social responsibility. A commitment to improve community well-being through discretionary business practices and contributions of corporate resources. Such practices can lead to favorable consumer reactions, particularly with regards to brand attitude. Thus, the CSR record of a company has a positive effect on a consumer's evaluations of the company and their intent to purchase the company's products. Public relations. Public relations is a strategic communication tool that focuses on reaching out to all stakeholders of a corporation, and its message is typically not centered upon any of the company's brands. Rather, the corporation as a whole is hailed and theory benefits from any given public relation initiative. Public relations professional needs to learn to speak as the organization would speak if it were a real person. Syntactic construction, word choice, and tone of voice needs to be pitch perfect, fine-tuned after testing with the members of the relevant public. Customer interactions and consumer linguistics. Service marketing researchers have long emphasized the importance of the service encounter as a crucial part of the customer experience and a driver of constructs like service quality, customer satisfaction, attitude toward the service provider, intention to purchase, store loyalty, and ultimately firm profits. The service encounter is based on the interaction between the service provider and the customer, and naturally, language plays a large role in the process. The study of service encounters lends itself naturally to a sociolinguistic approach because it is based on the interaction between two or more people. The extant literature can be divided into two groups. First is the studies of interlanguage phenomena like the semiotics of pub naming and signage, including the effect of accent and dialects, and the second one is the studies of interlinguistics effects.